Thank you, Senator.
Can you give us an update?
Well, Claudia did a good job. That's a good start off to some of my feelings. Phil Lyman, Commissioner from San Juan County, and appreciate the Commission being here and inviting us to participate. It's what a great commission to be on. Commission for the Stewardship of Public Lands. I recently read a book by Eleanor Ostrom, Nobel Prize winner, called Governing the Commons, and she talks about the common pool resources that we're asked to be stewards over and how's the best way to do that. And as is almost always the case, it seems like a fundamental principle, local control of local affairs works better than disconnected affairs. So I have to agree with the previous speaker. Those who live in these areas see it differently than those who visit the areas, and it's part of our life. It's part of who we are. I want to talk a little bit about. This is not a self-serving speech by any means. I do want to talk a little bit about recapture in San Juan County, Recapture Canyon. If you've heard some of the controversy there, but last week PBS NewsHour did a piece on it. You may have seen it. Megan Crandall from the BLM stood up and. Jeffrey Brown asked her the question, said some see the actions of BLM as heavy-handed, and she laughed as she responded and said, BLM Utah is not heavy-handed. And then she kind of laughed, gave that a kind of a jovial response, shook her head and turned away from the camera. Then she went right on to say there are 2,800 miles of trails, of ATV trails in San Juan County for people to ride. They shouldn't be offended if BLM wants to close down some of them. That's an incorrect fact. Number one, I'll talk about the heavy-handedness. When BLM showed up in Blanding in 2009 with over 100 agents, they traumatized the entire community, resulted in the suicides of 3 people, and it was a very heavy-handed action. In my most recent charge that I received, I was grateful that it was a misdemeanor. I was grateful that I received it by certified mail. I want to send a thank you letter to the BLM for not taking the course that they've taken with my friends and neighbors. Juan Palma also quoted this statistic of 2,800 miles of ATV trail. These are roads they are roads, and they just happen to also be on the BLM travel plan. I almost said the BYU travel plan. It's the BLM travel plan. They're not trails. There are far less trails than that. You could, by the same token, you could say, well, there's 2,800 miles of hiking trail if you want to hike on the roads as well. The environmental groups tout this number all the time, and it's incorrect. And that's one thing for them to tout the number, but for an official representative of the BLM in Utah to use that same figure is it's unconscionable. They know better, and yet they still present that. The other thing that Juan Palma said in his press release on recapture was that just this emphasis that they need to protect the archaeology. Archaeology is used as a weapon, and it's a trump card. If you mention it, you win, just like that. It doesn't matter if there is archaeology or not. And they use that to as I say, as a trump card with no backing to back that up. I want to say, I guess, in recapture specifically, you know, I'm anxious to go and have my day in court. The thing that's frightening to me is the conspiracy charges of 4 other people. One of these people, I don't have him on my Facebook. He doesn't have Facebook. He's not on my contact list. I've never spoken to him. I didn't see him that day. Yet somehow he became a co-conspirator in this. It reminds me of the sedition acts that were passed by the United States, where it's illegal to criticize the government for their actions. Anyway, like I say, I'm not looking for support for myself, but I am looking for support for commissioners, for counties in this battle, and I think it's an important issue. I believe we have to put principles ahead of politics. I believe that in order for us to manage this, we've got to look at the realities of these things and look at what people are dealing with on the ground in their communities. Protection is thrown out as another term that Voltaire said, if you want to have a discourse with me, first define the term. We talk about protection of these resources, archaeology. In San Juan County, if I was aware of someone that was doing damage to archaeology, I would be the first one out there to call for a stop to that. I've never put a shovel in the ground in search of anything. I've never picked up an arrowhead. And 90% of the community feels the same way. You're going to find some exceptions. Most of the archaeology from San Juan County was taken back at the turn of the century, and it's in a private collection in Finland right now. It's not the locals that have done this. In recapture, the archaeology that's up in the cliffs, as the water does what it does and continue the erosion of that cliff, you find things down in the bottom. Archaeologists that I'm well acquainted with said that there is no archaeology in the bottom of recapture that would be even close to qualifying for the National Register. And I challenge anyone who says that there's archaeology being damaged there to identify that and put it on the National Register. Anyway, I hope that that I can have a little bit of support. Again, not looking for sympathy for this, because this is an issue that's going to affect us all as we're moving forward, and I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have some questions. Thank you, Commissioner. I understand that on your commission, one of your members of your commission is a Native American, Commissioner Maryboy, right?
That's right.
With that in mind, when you're doing things as a county, do you do things to protect and care for and take care of the archaeology as you're doing your county work?
The road in recapture is a maintenance road. It goes down the pipeline. A person can drive that down to maintain the pipeline right now. It has had archaeological clearances unendingly. The LC Ranch in the late 1800s had 20,000 head of cattle at the head of recapture, just above the area that we're talking about. The dam that was built in 1986, or completed in 1986, had just an amazing amount of archaeological study and clearances that were done for that area and southward. So the notion that we have somehow neglected or that we weren't aware of the archaeology that's down there is just a falsehood. It's been cleared, and that's the road, the county road, that the protest took place on.
I guess I'm just asking in general terms, as you're doing county work on roads or whatever it may be, I mean, what kind of sensitivity or actions and things do you do? And you have a Native American member of your commission. I'm assuming that you take some sensitivity and, as you mentioned, some personal pride in your community in protecting those things. Can you describe kind of the things that you do
Sure.
I'm assuming you find there are archaeological finds and issues of a number of sorts around your county.
Archaeology is kind of a trademark in San Juan County. That's what people say. If you want to, in the college scene, if you want to learn about deep sea fishing, you go to the ocean. If you want to learn about archaeology, you've got to go to San Juan County. There's not a shortage of it there. We value it highly, and the road department is very sensitive to what they're dealing with. For example, just recently we found some dinosaur tracks. This same archaeologist friend of mine called me one morning and said, "Hey, I want to show you something." We went out on a county road where the road has been graded and started to wash away. There's some more dinosaur tracks that are being exposed. So our position as a county was to immediately call the BLM and say, "Hey, look at this. We have a situation. We want to reroute this road. We don't want people driving over the top of these tracks." Just down the canyon from there in Butler Wash was another road that went right over the top of a great kiva site, and I took him down there and said, could we not close this section of road and use this other section? It does the same purpose. Obviously they wanted to close it. That was a local response to a local issue, and that's what we do. With Kenneth Maryboy on the commission, you're right. Kenneth is a uniquely spiritual Native American. He's a medicine man by trade. Deeply spiritual, deeply connected to the land, and his presence on the commission, advises us on a lot of those issues, and I respect him to no end. I would turn over the decisions to Kenneth Maryboy if it were my place to do it. I'm confident with him, and he looks out for those things.
Mr. Chairman, let me ask one more. I saw an article recently, and since this is your area, you may be able to explain a little bit more about this, but I saw an article where there were a number of instances where the BLM, going through road or maintenance or excavations or things that they were doing that destroyed sites or damaged sites in what they were doing. Could you speak to that?
Out on Cedar Mesa was a massive mastication project, and they went over. They talk about locals, driving over the tops of ruins, which never happens. But you go out there and literally with a giant grader, or a giant loader with that mastication machine on the front, they've driven right over the top of Indian ruins, toppled the walls. You can see the artifacts strewn about, the tracks going right over the top, cleared 20 square miles of trees without any regard, without a NEPA study. Up in Indian Creek, they put in a whole latrine system and visitor system without a NEPA study, disrupting artifacts. So yeah, BLM is very prone to do that.
Were there any repercussions for the destruction and things that happened in those instances that you're aware of?
No, not yet.